Consider an optical waveguide. We have said that the optical waveguide modes are well confined in the core region. So, for a straight optical waveguide, due to the good confinement, the radiation loss can be ignored for a straight optical waveguide. However, for a band waveguide, as shown in this figure, you can see that the waveguide mode have to propagate along the curved length. And consider this situation. In the center region, the field just have to propagate along this distance. But in the cladding region, the cladding field have to propagate along this distance. And of course, this length is larger than this length. So, if the speed of the cladding field cannot catch up the speed of the core region, then part of the fields will be leaking out, which will induce the radiation loss. Okay, so along a band waveguide, the cladding field, the outer cladding field have to propagate longer lengths compared to the EM field in the center core region. So part of the power cannot catch up the speed of the waveguide mode, so it will be leaking out from the waveguide, and this will induce the radiation loss. As a result, we usually express the radiation loss in the following form. The loss coefficient alpha will be C1 times exponential minus C2R, where R here is defined as the bending radius of the curved waveguide. Okay? And clearly, from this expression shown here, you can see that the radiation loss coefficient alpha will depend on the bending radius. For larger bending radius, you will have smaller alpha. For smaller bending radius, you will have larger alpha. This means that for larger bending radius, we will have smaller loss. But if you reduce the bending radius, then you will have larger bending loss. But sometimes we like to reduce the device size. So you will like to use smaller R, but smaller R will have larger loss. However, you may say that, how about increase the R? If you increase the bending radius R, of course, you will have a smaller alpha value. But you can see, for larger R, the device will occupy larger area compared to this one. So, if R increase, the size will also be increased, but the alpha is reduced. Okay, so the bending radius R is reduced. You will have a smaller size, but the loss will be enhanced. So this is a trade-off for an optical waveguide design. Besides, we have the parameter C1 here, which will affect the value of alpha, and alpha will also depend on the waveguide size. The waveguide size here means the core size, and also it will depend on the operation wavelength. Material index difference, and polarization. Let's use the following figures to explain the radiation loss will depend on these parameters. Consider a rectangular waveguide. We define the length here is W, the width is W, and the thickness, the length here is H. And for these four figures, H is fixed at 400 nanometer. And for the situation, for W is 250 nanometer. This means that the waveguide structure will look like this. And the blue curve represents the TE mode, and the red curve stands for the TM mode. As you can see, due to the TE mode, the field distribution is like this. And for TM mode, the polarization is like this. So for such kind of rectangular waveguide, the TM mode can be guided well in this waveguide. So compare these two polarizations, you can see TM mode will have smaller radiation loss, but the TE mode will have larger radiation loss. Then we increase the width W to 300 nanometer. Then the structure will look like this. And clearly, compared to this one, the TE mode, the loss of the TE mode is reduced due to we have increased the width here, but we still have a smaller TM mode. As the W size is the same as the H, so it will become a square waveguide. For a square waveguide, the TE and the TM have the same confinement, so the bending loss will be the same. Besides, if we increase the W value to be larger than H, and the structure will look like in this way, As a result, it will have a better confinement for TE, so we will have smaller loss for TE, but poor confinement for TM, so we have a larger bending loss, radiation loss for TM. And let us compare these four figures together. You can see, as we increase the core size, the radiation loss will be reduced. Due to the larger core size will provide better confinement, then the radiation loss will be reduced. Besides, in these four figures, you can see that as we increase the bending radius, the R is increased, then the radiation loss will be reduced, as we have said here. And you can also increase the confinement by use shorter wavelengths or use higher material index difference. These two ways will provide you good confinement for optical waveguide to reduce the radiation loss.